What's up, guys? So I'm making a video here for you guys today on YouTube. I've noticed, and it's true, just about every time that I do these videos on YouTube, I'm basically at the beginning of the video, I'm mentioning like my thoughts for me and my future with social media, me and my future and my approach or my approaches for how I communicate with the outside world through social media. It could be through video, through short form video, long form video. One second, let me blow my nose. And I've, had several different approaches and strategies. And I've had several different, I've had several different approaches and strategies and like methods, or different approaches and strategies. And I've often disagreed with myself over what's the best thing, or in other words, haven't been able to quite decide or haven't finished deciding. And I've a lot of times said, I reserve the right to change how I do it, which is real, which is true. I do reserve the right to change my approach or my approaches. And that includes this video. Although at some point, maybe I'll stop feeling sort of guilty towards the viewer, and I won't have to keep explaining myself and, stuff like that, backing up myself of what I do or why I do it and whatever. But, and by the way, I try not to use the word but, because it's really not one of my favorite words. I think you could live your whole life without saying the word but. It's not a very strong thing to say. So here's the thing, and you could say tentatively, it may or may not be tentatively, I've decided to, one second. Okay. So I've determined, again, this could be tentatively, it could be not tentatively. I've determined, because I want to teach Spanish, and that's like in a professional capacity. At some points, I've considered tying in what I call my sense of humor to the videos, to the instruction. At other times, I've taken a great hiatus. I say great hiatus, it's only been like a month, but I've taken a great hiatus. And in the interim, during which I've stopped putting videos on Instagram I keep looking at myself, I'm supposed to look at the green dot, with the camera. In the interim during which I have stopped making videos, I've considered, sometimes actively thinking, most of the time just my subconscious in the back of my mind, the strategies that I was and wasn't taking in the approach, and kind of reconsidered the whole thing. And I think to a large degree, I'm not signing anything in blood. I'm not making any decision necessarily for sure, but I've kind of decided, and again, this could be tentatively, this could be not tentatively. I've decided, I don't want to combine sense of humor with teaching Spanish, because I think it might make it hokey. That could be a strategy, but really, you don't need humor to learn a language, and I don't even really think I don't want to say it, but I think you can tie it in. I might have some of it, but maybe 10, 20, 30%. But for the most part, there's a lot of different ways you can captivate the human mind and attention and engage the psychology. These people outside my window are being really loud. They're black people, and they're being loud. But that's not to say that all black people are loud. But you know how we all have different semantics to when we talk? These black people are saying, no, man, huh, They're just making these sounds. They're not taking the effort to really say words clearly. They don't pronounce things clearly. These people, not saying all black people, but the black people outside my window. Do you hear them? Listen to them. I have often thought about this subject, by the way, getting off topic. You can hear them, can't you? This is insane. I've often thought about this before. My father was very racist when I was a boy. I don't know if he's still racist or not. Probably still racist. I don't know. But I know that when I was being raised, he was what some would term racist. Some might defend him that he wasn't. Some might claim that I'm racist. I don't believe I'm. I don't even necessarily. I really honestly. Was my father racist? Who knows? I think people don't really know the true definition of racism. I think racism is to think, what is the definition of racism? That should be looked up. But, 1 second. So, I thought about this subject before. Why do black people not pronounce things very good? And I was in a country where there's black people who spoke Spanish. And they change Spanish. From what Spanish should be, they change it. Now, let me say this. They have different genes. They have different genes, just like Asians have different genes than white people. Each race has its own specific gene set. A lot of African people, they've discovered that they have a lot more muscle mass, and higher bone density means their bones are stronger. Literally, black people, a lot of times their bones are thicker and stronger, and they naturally have more muscle. Not all black people, but a lot of black people, they are less buoyant in water. I'm not saying black people can or cannot swim, because you don't know that you can't say whether they can or can't swim as far as all of black people. But the conception that black people in general are not good at swimming or don't like swimming, well, I think it may be very well largely true. Scientifically, they are less buoyant. On average, an African person's body, or a person of African descent, or a black person, you could just say black person, they have more muscle and less fat. So they basically, scientifically, they would sink more than a non-black person's body, who typically has less muscle and more fat. And again, remember, the black people's bones are denser. They have, their bones weigh more, and I would say they're stronger. So definitely God blessed them with a lot of gifts. But if you think about why they talk differently, it could be genes, could be genetically. Psychologically, they're wired to talk a little different, and they're vocal. I think they are predispositioned genetically. Now, some black people talk just like everyone else, but the black people that seem to take language and change it a lot, it may be cultural influence, it may be some genetic, it may be, if you think about it, in the case of the United States, they were brought here on slave ships, not speaking English. No one actually ever gave them the proper chance to speak English correctly. Now, with the school system, they would have that chance. But again, you typically speak the way your house speaks, and their original houses, which would go back to the slave houses, they didn't speak English at first. So I think instead of judging them like as if they're doing something bad for speaking differently, you can be open-minded. Now, some black people come straight from Africa. Their English is actually pretty good. But the black people that were, and by the way, I think it's case by case. There's some white people that speak very strange. It's not just a black people thing. Although there are a lot of black, I've seen in the other side of the world speaking Spanish, where black people seem to change the language of Spanish. So I don't know why a lot of black people change the language and don't like speaking the way the language was presented to them. They like to change it and twist it. I don't know, but that's not what this video is about. And so I've decided, this can be tentatively, this can be not tentatively. I've decided that sense of humor is not necessarily, you can engage the psychological systems of a person in a positive way for success in learning a language. Ironic that I just spoke about people speaking a language incorrectly. You could utilize a person's psychology or engage their own psychology for success in learning a language without humor. One of the ways is through story. I hate to say, I never agree with saying that way, but like through what can be termed as story or story arcs. which is nothing new in the sense that my teacher, Frau Gerlach, Mrs. Gerlach, when I was in 12th grade in 2012, 2013, she had been utilizing this for many years. She had a master's degree, has a master's degree. She's still alive, God bless her. She's still teaching at the high school I went to, God bless her. She has a master's degree in psychology and a bachelor's of science in German. If not bachelor's of arts. I don't know if it's a BA or a BS in German, but she has a bachelor's in German and a master's in psychology. And a lot of how I'm going to go forward teaching Spanish is off of what she taught, of how she taught German. It could be applied to different languages. But I don't think she had a little touch of humor. I don't think you don't really need more than a touch. And now, and by the way, throughout my life, I've considered being a stand-up comedian. I like laughing and comedy. It's very healing for the person telling the jokes and the person hearing the jokes. As long as it's actually funny, it's got to be good. Of course, to get good at anything, you could put in work and put in, I don't like to use the word repetitions because it's combining the weightlifting with other things that you shouldn't combine weightlifting, that have no connection to weightlifting. But, the term practice makes perfect. There's the more correct term, practice perfect makes perfect. Okay, so here's the thing. If I'm doing these vlogs, which is just my life, and by the way, I'm going to put on my shoes and put on a jacket and take you guys outside, and going to walk around outside and get into a lot of this stuff. But real quick, before I put on my shoes, I'm going to use the bathroom, put on my shoes, put on my jacket, I'm going to take you guys outside. Before I do that, though, I'm going to just break this down really quick. If I were to do vlogs, this is a vlog, and I'll upload this to my YouTube channel, someone may make I'm just going to address it, what may or may not be real, or may be real, may not be real, may be real. Someone may make the argument, or, may say, oh, you can't do these vlogs. You're so unhinged, so raw. You're saying stuff that people don't usually say. You're showing your life on such a personal level. You're showing your vulnerabilities. You're showing your messy car, your messy room, your life as it's not put together, some personal details, some personal drama. You can't put these vlogs out here so raw. As raw as it gets, really. Maybe more raw than anyone's ever made a vlog before in the history of all vlogging. You can't put these really raw vlogs, these really vlogs on here, and then still be credible teaching Spanish. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to have the vlog channel, and I'm going to have the Spanish channel. If they ever merge at some point, cool. I at least initially want to have my Spanish teaching social media not be the same as my personal or vlog. So there's two brands. There's the personal brand of me as a person, and there's the Spanish brand of me as a person teaching Spanish or learning Spanish through me. I could make the Spanish brand more personal. The main focus is always going to be Spanish, unless and until it sort of merges, and then the main focus is no longer the focus being the main product being Spanish, or the advantage to the consumable advantage to the audience member. But at some point, the focus may be more sort of merged and or blended with my life. My life being a sort of catalyst for the advertising. And then at the end of the day, what is the consumable product is my Spanish curriculum and my Spanish learning systems. But I don't see that happening unless and until I become very famous. I would like to be very famous. I don't like hiding things or being sneaky. I'm being honest with you guys. I want to be famous. And by the way, regardless of fame, and honest to God, I'd like to be famous versus not. And fame is a measure of success. And fame brings success. Regardless of fame, I want to be financially abundant. And I want to have nice cars. I want to have the time that if I want to take a whole day off to clean my car, clean my room, I can do so. I want to have the financial capability to live wherever I want. whether it's one apartment or another, one rented room or another. Eventually, quite honestly, I don't want to have the finances to really need to consider renting a room. I'd like to have the finances to that. I wouldn't think of that, just like I wouldn't think of eating, 200 calories for lunch. But some people are so poor, that's really all they can think about. Like a packet of crackers is maybe as much as someone can eat for lunch. But if you have a good income, you would never, it's like, why would you just think to rent a room? If you have enough money, you would never just think, oh, let me just rent one room in someone else's apartment or someone else's house. I'd like to financially have enough money so where I'm just renting any apartment I want. It could be a 1-bedroom, it could be a 2-bedroom, it could be just for the shits and giggles a 3-bedroom, even though I don't need a 3-bedroom. Probably make one a guest room. Probably make one room a guest room, one room a studio. Probably make one room an indoor gym, one room a studio, one room a bedroom, and then the living room, like the pad area, common area. And I think that just solved I just addressed right there. I'd make, again, one room a gym, weightlifting room, one room, and I'd have like padding on the ground, because especially if you're in apartments, you don't want to disturb your neighbors below. And so I'd have padding on the ground, so you could, to some degree, you could drop weights, quite frankly. And when I say padding, I might mean like feet of padding, like mattresses, so I could drop the weights on it. Like, I want to be able to really lift in an apartment where I'm not going to damage the floor, I'm not going to disturb the neighbors. And by the way, I think I'm not a construction expert at the moment. I will be one day, very soon. I think if you have concrete floors between the floors of buildings, I think you could truly lift weights. And it wouldn't even make that much noise, dropping the weights on the ground. By the way, it is part of weightlifting to drop the weights on the ground. Not like it's the main thing necessarily, but it is. Depends how you're weightlifting. There's different ways of weightlifting, but yes, very often it is. Again, it's not necessarily the goal, but it can be, and often is indeed. It depends how you're lifting. It is a part of weightlifting. So yeah, I'm gonna take you guys outside. I'm gonna use the bathroom, put on some jacket, maybe some. I'm wearing shorts right now, outdoor shorts, but maybe I'll put on some pants and take you guys outside and bring you guys along. This is a vlog. This is my life. This is not like a version of me for the internet. This is me. This has nothing to do with Spanish. This is just me. So let me use the bathroom real quick. I'll be back and take you guys outside and let's do it. Cool. So we are live. I was debating saying that a second before I said it because we're actually not live. I'm not streaming this. By the way, using the bathroom, getting ready to put in my, use the bathroom, getting ready to come out here. I did contemplate the idea of streaming. I might do streaming. One thing I want to mention to you guys, I want to talk about, I've been contemplating joining first it was the Army again, then it's the Navy, and I'll tell you guys why. I'll break it down for you guys. So let me get out to the center of the field a little bit. But yeah, guys, the thing is, and I thought about this too, as I was using the bathroom, getting ready to come out here. In the olden days, the social media world did not exist. I know if a lot of young people might find that hard to believe, for one, because the way things are, and also for another, and these are almost the same thing, but not exactly the same thing. The other reason why they might find it hard to believe is because the world has never existed where they were in it and it wasn't that way. They were not on the planet when it was any other way, but there was a way, and I was on the planet when it was different, where there was no social media. Literally the videos on YouTube, there was, I remember seeing animal abuse. I'm not saying I support animal abuse. I'm saying I viewed animal abuse on YouTube. When I was like in 7th grade, people took squirrels and cats and catapulted them. I don't remember seeing a cat, but I do remember they did this with a squirrel. They called it the flying squirrel. They took a squirrel and the ginormous catapults like that are basically the same size as the ones used in medieval times. Like they're the actual, they're the actual catapults of centuries ago that used to be used in war when they lay siege on castles and stuff. They'd put a squirrel in an actual catapult and fling it. Again, this is not a joke or a toy. Actual catapult. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Look up a catapult. The real ones, not like a little mini one. Real catapults. They'd Actually, no, but there's also some that are like maybe not full. No, I think this one was a full size. If it was smaller than a full size, it was like significantly big. Like, no, I think it might have been a full size one. So they flung, I remember seeing a squirrel get flung from a catapult, and it would be like going like, I don't know, at least 100 yards. They call it the flying squirrel. I don't know, the squirrel probably died, I'm not sure, or maybe just got very injured. So as everyone knows, everyone knows that's animal abuse. That was on YouTube, when, of course, now I don't think it'd be allowed on YouTube. But by the way, this was before Google purchased YouTube. YouTube was its own company. It was not part of Google. Now it's part of Google for many years. There was that on YouTube. You could see animal abuse on YouTube. We were not looking for it. We were just looking for funny things. There's funny cat videos, and there was like stuff that people thought would be entertaining, and it was entertaining. I'm not saying it was good. I don't think that they should mistreat animals. I thought it was funny, and then it's just, yeah. But there was no personalities. There was TV personalities. There was, when I was a kid, Luann Barb, I think was her name. There was Jay Leno on TV. When Conan O'Brien came back, I was already like in my young adults. That was when social media already existed. Before social media existed, there's Luann Barr. Luann Barr was her name. Luann Barr was on TV. There was that one guy, Regis, who always did the news. They were the personalities, but they were not showing the real side of themselves. They were showing either a side of themselves that they showed for the news, or they were showing a character that they played, like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld was a guy who had a TV show. He's still around. I don't think young people care about him at all. But when I was still young, he was still on TV. Everybody loves Raymond, Ray Romano. Again, none of those people did anything on screen with their own personalities. But there were no, I think one of the first ever in the world personalities to come, like, so, Josh 2.0, or Tosh.0, I think it's called. Tosh.0 was this fat guy and this thin guy, and he's not fat anymore, but this, plump fellow and a thinner fellow. And by the way, I do believe a lot of weight is genetics. So if you're really, really plump, it's because that's the way your genes are. Some people are really, really skinny. That's the way their genes are. I don't think you are good or bad as a person. Now, here's what I do think. I think if you have neutral genes, or say standard genes, I'd call them, I have standard genes. I could be fat if I let myself. I could be thin if I cut back food. The thing about people who are really overweight is when they cut back on food, they don't get that thin. Their bodies are sort of made, their genetics are made to be overweight, which I wouldn't even really in some ways argue it's overweight. You can say that, but again, it's genetically, their DNA spirals, that their DNA is doing stuff with the food that other people's bodies are not doing with the food. It's not that they're lazy or eat too much. They probably do like food, but so do I, and I'm not ever fat unless I let myself. I eat a tremendous amount of sweets. I eat a tremendous amount of calories. And I'm not really fat. So again, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying the facts is it was a plump guy and the thin guy. Now that was Tosh.0. All these people were being molested and involved in sexual molestation they didn't want to be involved in, and exploitation. We didn't know that till about now, recording this in 2026. Now we know just how horrible the whole industry was, that we never really knew about. When I was a little kid, you'd see little kids get gooed in the face with this green slime goo. This is before slime was popular, but it was like this green slime goo, and they'd throw this buckets of the slime into the kids' faces on Nickelodeon, which is very strange, which should be strange, but yeah, it's that was part of the TV show. And I don't think they do that anymore on the TV show anymore. But yeah, that was a big part of the TV show, was the slime stuff that people did. One second. But anyways, what I was getting at is the only personalities on TV were just that. They were on television. And so again, it wasn't their real personality. Like Jeanette McCurdy, I'm 30 as of this recording. My generation, She was like we all loved her to death. I barely watched Nickelodeon at all, hardly at all. But I knew I knew that character. I didn't know her real name. Did I know her real name? But I knew. Actually, I might have known her real name. But the point is, and I don't remember. Maybe on some of those shows on Nickelodeon, they let the kids use their real name. I don't remember. I don't think so. Maybe because I think I knew Jeanette McCurdy was Jeanette McCurdy. But how did I know that? Because her character's name couldn't have been Jeanette, was it? I think. Maybe I'm getting confused if I knew her name back then or not. But the point is, I knew who she was. I had a huge crush on her. Who didn't? She's cool. But that was basically the famous people. One of the first times ever in history that I'm aware of. And I'm not saying this for sensationalism. I'm saying this because, to my knowledge, it's accurate. And again, I'm not trying to agree with anything, how the world kids think these days, if I'm agreeing with an agenda or not. No, this is literally how I remember it. The first time anyone became famous was, I was going to say Kim Kardashian, but now I'm just remembering about Kanye. I think Kanye started to try to make himself famous as much as possible, even before social media really popped off. But so you could start to build your brand before social media by just like Britney Spears. Okay, Britney Spears, then again, think about it today. Here's the interesting thing. Britney Spears is one of the most famous people on the planet ever. But I don't think she's as big now on social media. Some people have leveraged social media. Kim Kardashian was famous just like Britney Spears, but social media I don't think had really begun yet. Now Kim Kardashian's famous and they do use social media. So what I'm getting at is that the first person that I ever remember being really famous was Kim Kardashian, because I heard, I think it was 8th grade, she did a film that everyone talked about, a sex tape. And I never, no, I have seen part of it, but I have seen part of it. Which is not something I'm necessarily proud of because it's pornography and it's a dirty, dirty thing. But I think that they used to be able to see the whole thing back in the day. I don't know if I did or didn't see the whole thing, so I don't know how long the whole thing was. But I thought, look, I know it's a sin, but if I'm on this planet, I want to know what was the big deal. And I was unimpressed with the sex tape. What was impressive about it, I believe, to the general public was, I don't even know, to be honest. I think those sex tapes had always existed. Pornography has always existed, so I don't know exactly what made that particular recording so sensational. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe because she was a known person. I think before, pornography was done with people that you never knew who they were. I don't support pornography. I think it's one of the worst addictions in our society. Point blank, completely. It's one of the worst things in our society at all. But anyway, she was the first person that I remember to really become famous. And again, that was technically, I think, before social media. But as soon as social media started, and don't quote me on this because I wasn't scouting out at the time, keeping track of this. But I'm going to say, and it may be true, may not be true. As soon as social media started, she jumped right on it and leveraged it. So what does this have to do with anything? What this has to do with anything is, that's a good question. Let me see. One second here. I don't even, let me see if I could, let me see something here. So, building your personal brand is about showing who you are. Now, I'm not saying that that's the entirety of it. I'm not saying that's the only thing involved. It is definitely one thing involved. Showing who you are. Now, some may say, well, it's showing yourself the victory arc of the true hero story arc, a story arc of, overcoming challenges. And I do believe that's true. I think in many ways, Kim Kardashian giving a guy head on film, and she really, really, really gave a guy head on film, like really, really, really did. Okay. My hat goes off to her for her skills in that regard. That's kind of like, even though that can be an act of love and act of passion, something you want to do, and it's nothing, you could have no bad association with that. I think in as much as she's kind of prostituting herself out on film, I don't know if she loved that guy. I think she was literally doing a publicity stunt and basically being a whore on camera for views. Again, I don't think she loved the guy. I don't think it was really about the sex so much as becoming famous. Now, maybe it was leaked on purpose, maybe not, who knows. I think she sued him over what? Because did he have the rights to the film and she sued him? Like, she doesn't want it to be released anymore. And by the way, I can respect that in the sense that, but that only proves the point that what she did was a dirty thing for dirty motives. And you could even say desperate thing for desperate motives. So it's like she started at the bottom, having sex for money. A prostitute. And now she's at the top of the world. Now we're forgetting the point, that the part where she sold her soul to the devil. But you know, she overcame the challenges and she's at the top of the world now. Okay. And by the way, do not sell your soul to the devil. I'm not condoning that. I'm not joking. I'm being serious. Do not do that. But yeah, social media, a significant part of it is you putting yourself on screen who you are. Not just on screen, yes, on screen, but like for the world. You're showing the world, you're putting it out there for the world to see who you are. And that's what I'm doing right now. I want to tell you guys about the Navy. I've been contemplating joining the Navy. A big part of it is because I didn't do good in the Army. When I say I didn't do good, I think people want to make things complicated. They're not. If someone takes a cookie and says, oh, this cookie doesn't taste good. Well, what do you mean it doesn't taste good? Well, what do you fucking think, Einstein? I mean, the taste is not good. How the fuck can you be confused about that? I hate when people, I don't like to say, I don't necessarily hate it. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. So fucking stupid. Well, what do you mean you didn't do good in the Army? Well, what do you fucking think? What do you fucking think? People are such idiots. I hope you guys watching this are not idiots. That'd be nice. If you are, what can I do about it? But hope you guys are not idiots. And I feel guilty about that. And so a big part of me wants to reclaim my honor of joining the military again, getting on. I was discharged under honorable. I'd like to go back and do my service and then get discharged honorably. And I thought, well, if I join again, I'm 30. If I join now, I'll probably stay in for 20 years. This guy's gonna come my direction. I know it. No, he's not. Oh. Maybe he didn't because I said that. Weird. Interesting. Okay. Filming in public is not initially easy, I think, because you don't want people to hear what you're saying. I want the audience to hear, but I don't want, because it's all context. If you're watching to this point and you're still watching, you guys are with me. If you're just some random person thinking you're negative things, it's really interesting the concept that because of the digital world, if someone in real life doesn't like what you're doing or what you're saying, and they give you bad vibes, it doesn't help your life at all. But because of the digital world, if someone really doesn't like what you're saying, they won't watch you. A lot of the time, right? I'd say most of the time, or at least initially, most of the time. At a certain point in the arc, a curve in the graph, if you will, a tipping point, turning point, point of critical mass. Even if they don't like you, they'll still watch what you are doing because you've achieved such a level of fame. And so then even though people don't like what you're doing, them not liking what you're doing is actually helping you. But it's only because of the digital world, because all the views get measured. Now, you could make the argument that this was part of how TV worked. I will say, though, because there was only so many channels, it wasn't an infinite frontier of digital space. With TV only being so many channels, if they didn't like your stuff, I think your ratings might have gone down, and people wouldn't just watch it because they didn't like you or because they couldn't ignore you because they were interested. And so I don't think this could be it could be argued that it was part of the way TV worked. It could also be argued that this was not the way TV worked. That the way TV worked, they had to love you. But in the digital age, with the onset of, we're free from all the television stations. We can do whatever we want. Social media. Like, I never really liked the Kardashians at all for many, many years. One day, I started to watch their show because I was like, who the fuck are these women? And again, I already mentioned I looked up her original video. And I was like, okay, the video's not that impressive, but I understand way back in the day when the world was supposedly more innocent, but not really. There was still evil going on back then. But in mass, the culture was more Judeo-Christian in many ways, I think. We had, I don't know, I think it's coming back to being very Judeo-Christian again. The point is, well, it's splitting sides. You're either with Jesus and God, or you're with witchcraft and nonsense and the devil. You're literally either with God or the devil. It's literally boiled down. It's just that simple now. So, but anyways, I was not impressed by her, you know, and I saw her stuff. It's like, okay, she's fighting with her sisters. Her mom is a cold, very, you know, sort of a creepy but very good administrator type of lady. How much of all this stuff is the mother making them do? Did the family sell their soul to the devil? Did the father sell his soul to the devil? The guy defended O.J. Simpson, said that he didn't murder his wife when he did murder his wife. You know, but I'm like, okay, they're fighting on camera. It's like a reality show. The only reason why it's interesting is because people lust after, they're sexually attracted to this woman because of the pornography she did. And she sexualized herself, and she continues to sexualize herself because she's showing her breasts and getting her breasts bigger. She's showing off her butt with his tight-fitting pants, and she's getting her butt bigger. So she's basically making herself a symbol, purposely trying to have men lust after her. In as much as she has men's lust and attention, she commands women's attention because women are always concerned with who's the top woman. And in as much as all these guys on a worldwide level lust after her, she, for better or for worse, whether you like it or you don't, makes sense or perfect sense or doesn't make perfect sense, she becomes a top woman. So even if it's in a dirty, sort of twisted, backwards way, she becomes a top woman because men are so horny for her. So then the women have to pay attention to her to keep track. Okay, who's the top woman? And then she's setting trends, setting styles. You know? So a lot of me going into the Navy is because I feel guilty for not doing good. I was a younger man. I'm not making excuses for myself. If you really listen, I never make excuses for myself. And if I do, so be it. But it's not really my bread and butter of how I live my life. It used to be. No, that was not a good thing. Also, another thing I want to mention. Well, I don't want to mention in this video. So, I was a younger man then, and I was not who I needed to be if I was going to be successful in the Army. And maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. That being said, I was a younger man, and that's were mistakes that I have to live with. But those mistakes are locked away in that era of my life. I cannot guilt myself and blame myself for things I did 10 years ago because I'm not the same person as I was 10 years ago. And I think every decade that passes, you don't have to keep blaming yourself for things you did 10 years ago. Now, if it's still, I mean, that's an interesting thought. I don't know. I've never even really, I said that, but I don't know how much I've ever considered that before. I don't know. At least in my case, I think it's true. Because also, the way I can react to life now is different than then. For one, it's different in many ways. One, physically, I'm different. You know, military's a physical thing. No, I can still join again. I mean, do I want to give that time in my life away? But look, I often want to join the military again because of guilt. And to reclaim honor and dignity of my name. Here's the thing. We're in 2026. By 2032, the whole United States is going to go to shit. The dollar's already failing as it is. Not failing completely, but the dollar's way, way, way weaker than it should be. The dollar's very weak. So then I think to myself, what if I just... So at work, there's a girl who really liked me. She kept joking that she's going to marry me. I'm going to marry her. I thought it was cute. I like her too. Pinching myself thinking, wow. Not pinching myself. I don't like the phrase pinching myself. I was thinking, wow, this is really cool. If this really works out. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I save up to buy a diamond ring? A nice one. A real diamond, not a lab-grown diamond. And then, you know, she doesn't come up to work. I think I don't know. Maybe she's got back with her ex-boyfriend. I don't know. That does make me, I don't love that. And I kind of think to myself sometimes, and another reason why I want to join the military again is because I want to break strength records. And then I kind of thought to myself for a second, you know, what if I don't join the military again? I don't think I have the heart to do it. I don't think I have the heart to serve 20 years. Part of why I was excited to serve is I was going to marry that woman or another of my friends that I really like. Marry the beautiful, 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 beautiful girl. One of two women. Could be another woman that's not one of those two, but a beautiful wife. So my Navy service will be really service to my family, service to my wife, providing for my family. And if I don't have a wife, even if I were to bounce back and get another girl to marry me, something did it to me. I've been heartbroken like 10 times, and I'm 30 years old, and I've been heartbroken like 10 times. And I don't think I have the heart to serve 20 years in the military anymore. Even a 4-year contract, or a 3-year contract, I don't think I have the heart to do it. I think I'd be just as not a good a soldier or worse a soldier as I ever. And I know in the Navy it's sailors. I don't think I have the heart to do it. And then I thought, you know what? I have the heart, not out of any anger, just out of I'm making life choices. I have the heart. One second, this car's giving me weird vibes. I'm telling you. Watch, I'm looking at them. They're gonna look right back at me. No, but there's some weird vibes. And when people are driving very slow, like they're not sure of the road ahead of them, why are they driving then? If you don't know what's ahead of you, why are you on the road? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going through a Vietnam in a jungle road. Why are they driving so timidly? I hate that shit. I hate people driving unsure of themselves. Like they have to think their whole life over, as they're driving in the car. Like, don't do that. Why? Some people's vibes disgust me, like how they're so stupid and indecisive. I'm not, it's just fuck. Oh, hate it. It's ridiculously disgusting. But, then I think, I do have the will to become as disgustingly, filthy, stinking rich as possible. Not disgustingly, like, you could say disgustingly, not disgustingly, as filthy, stinking rich as possible. Because a lot of times, the woman could want me becoming rich, or they could not want me. Now, if they don't want me, I will be able to help a lot of people. And I have another goal that I don't necessarily want to tell you guys, but it's a goal of mine that I've had, which doesn't necessarily conflict with any of what I previously mentioned, at least as part of breaking strength records. Yes, and that's something that is in alignment with becoming filthy stinking rich. Me in the Navy, I don't see myself becoming filthy stinking rich in the sense that, at least not while I'm in the Navy, because as a service member, I don't necessarily think that has much of anything to do with money, especially if you're enlisted. Money in the military, I don't want to tell you guys how to do it. There's a way to do it. I don't want to tell you guys. I have a bad feeling about it. I thought about this lately, the tipping point for if you remember someone fondly you're ill, or with ill memories. My father used to scold me, what some might consider very harshly, for saying he scolded me, again, what some might consider very harshly. Did not say the word he scolded me very harshly for wiping my mouth on my upper sleeve. I would wrap my mouth on my sleeve. He kept coaching me not to do that. Not really coaching so much as like psychological abuse. Or some people could just say being very strict, but and I thought about this, and I'm thinking about this right now. I think in and of itself, like when I have children, if my son says a lot, I will tell him not to say And I think it won't be a pleasant thing in the moment to be trained out of a bad habit. I think the tipping point, and I hate to use a term which I love so much in this context, it's such a nasty subject of remembering people so horrifically because they were horrific to you. If my dad had been a good man and a good man to me, I wouldn't have minded that he strictly trained me to not say and he strictly trained me to not wipe my arm, my face, my mouth on my upper sleeve. And I wouldn't have minded the strict training, which is really just a part of good upbringing. It's like if you see your daughter dressed as a whore, you're going to scold her. It's not wrong to scold her. No one likes being scolded, but you must discipline youngsters so that they are brought up upright. That being said, if you're a good man, they're going to remember you fondly, and the scoldings are going to remember fondly. I'm not talking about Stockholm Syndrome. I'm talking about, some may argue it's Stockholm Syndrome, but I'm talking about, it's part of good upbringing. I had to be coached. I had to be corrected this and that. I had to be scolded this and that. When I knew I was in the wrong, I'm glad they corrected me and scolded me when I was in the wrong, because it helped me become a better man, a better woman. But that is independent. It's connected and not, let me say this. Excuse me. Let me go back. So yes, that is independent of if the father's a good or bad man. If the father's a good man, all those scoldings, and I'm kind of repeating myself here, will be remembered with gratitude and appreciative attitude. If the father's a bad man, even though the scoldings were in and of themselves good scoldings because they came from a bad man who is bad to you, you don't have, essentially, if a piece of shit is telling you to be a better person, you're not grateful for the piece of shit correcting you, and you don't have any respect for the piece of shit. My father, not a good man, not a noble man, not a man of valor, a very weaselly, cowardly piece of shit man. He's an educated man and a somewhat wealthy man, but piece of shit man, integrity-wise. Not an honest man. I wouldn't say he's a good man. I actually think he sexually molested me when I was a baby, when I was like 5. Not a lot, but a little. So I don't know if that's less bad than more bad, because it wasn't a lot of sexual molestation. It was just some over several times. More than a couple times. Not quite a dozen times. So, I guess, I don't know where that scales on the scale of child molestation scale, but, I think he's sexually molesting my stepsister. I have no evidence to prove that. I'm not saying that he is doing that. I'm saying I think he's doing that. I have the right to say what I think, and that's what I think. I think he's doing that. I'm not saying he's doing that. I'm not claiming he's doing that. I'm saying I think he's doing that. I think he's doing that, and that's not good. Evil man. I used to say, I'm not saying he's evil. I do say he's evil. He's evil. I don't hate him. I hated him for many years. And I think if someone's evil in your life, the best thing to do is to heal. Separate yourself and heal. Don't hate them. Don't fight them. If you want to see how ugly the devil is, go ahead and fight them. But I don't believe when people are satanic and demonic and evil, I don't believe it does much good to, again, fight evil people. Maybe fight what they do. If they're doing something wrong, don't let them get away with things. But if it's just a soul-to-soul level fight, you're not going to cast the devil out of them by fighting him. I think the best thing is just, again, don't permit the goo to spread. If they're wronging you or wronging others, don't let them wrong you or wrong others. Whether you like it or not, you must stand up for yourself in certain cases, and that's one of the ugliest, hardest things of life. Not ugly that I don't think it's a good thing, but ugly that's a very, very difficult and a nasty thing. A very difficult thing. I'm not saying, because nasty makes it seem like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a necessary good thing, but it's very difficult. It's like if you have to go, I don't know, deal with like a dead possum. It's horrible. I'm not saying it's bad to do, but it's difficult and not pleasant, and we pray to God to wash off all the negativity and evil intentions, evil feelings, not from you, but evil people have nothing but evil feelings, evil thoughts, evil intentions. Separate yourself and don't hate the evil people if they're in your life. I hope they're not, but I will say I'm not saying it's you're a winner. I don't want to make light of this matter. If you have had to deal with evil people in your life, God is preparing you for something that may be worse than what you've experienced before, may be the same, but you will be able to help other people in your life if you've gotten through that. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching.